Massive update for the XRP community. XRP has just entered oversold territory. And during today's episode, we're going to highlight how the stars are aligning on the XRP price chart for this to be the fake out that we've been waiting for. With Raul Paul calling for this 35% collapse and the entire retail market saying it would be over, we are going to show our community there is a chance it's not over. We're not going to analyze this from a sentiment standpoint, but provide the facts and data that lead us to believe the XRP community has a whole lot to be excited about. And one of those major catalysts is starting right here with Franklin Templeton, the $1.5 trillion asset manager, set to launch their XRP spot ETF this Monday, November 24th. Now, this is in less than 24 hours, but that's not all. Grayscale will also be filing the GXRP ETF, another spot product set to go live on the New York Stock Exchange this Monday. Now, why is this important? These are two of the largest asset issuers that have filed for an XRP ETF. And with Bitwise and Canary Capital, two of the smallest, already raising over 200 million units of XRP, we can only imagine what the demand will be once the top dogs step into this market. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Good Evening Crypto, your favorite crypto news related channel. If you enjoy this content, smash that like button and subscribe, as you're going to get an update every single day, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. And believe me, this is going to be an exciting episode because we're starting off with the XRP price chart.
Well, I'll tell you right, Abs, that's right. There are two bangers coming tomorrow. We had the two little guys come last week. Now we got, we didn't ask the little guys in the middle, but no, we're going right to the big boys right now. We have two of the largest coming in here. And so what's exciting for me is now we're going to see, with a couple of these big boys lining up, will they be able to drive enough volume, enough momentum into the XRP demand to actually move the price? So that's what I'm going to be keeping an eye on tomorrow, Abs. I'm really, really excited about this to see it. Now, I don't have any expectations. I know everybody's like, this drives to $5, $10. No. But what I want to see is, listen, if we get a 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 cents bump, that would be really, really, really good. I don't know if it's going to happen, but these are the things you want to watch for. Now, here's the thing I've kind of thought or changed, or thinking a little different about ETFs is they really have a different value. I don't look at them anymore as driving the price up, Abs. I'm looking at them more as stabilizing the price. So as more supply comes off and goes into these things, of course, people could always sell them. I get that. But the point is they're not going to sell everything they're buying. So what's going to happen is these are going to provide more of a stability for us. But what will be an interesting test tomorrow is to see long-term we get the stability, but short-term, will we get some kind of price appreciation from the big boys coming in? So I'm really excited to see how it's going to happen, Abs. No price predictions here. I'm just going to be watching and seeing how these things go.
And we really need to keep an eye on what happens only an hour from right now with the weekly close for XRP getting above $2. This is a pivotal range for the XRP community. Now, I had pointed this out earlier in the week, Johnny, so many of our listeners are privy to this, but the XRP and Bitcoin pairing looks like one of the most bullish charts in all of crypto. And even during this bearish momentum, this chart has been able to close two weekly candles that are bullish. And as our traders know, that is a doji candle that just closed today. We could see some major bullish momentum coming into the XRP price chart. Now, as for specific price targets, what we need to see today is a weekly closure above $2, and we're currently trading at $2.07. Now, less than 24 hours ago, this was an asset that was just trading as low as $1.88 on most American exchanges. We've already seen nearly a 20-cent rebound, and that's very positive. But outlining this even further, when you look at the XRP price chart, we are in the process of actually creating a higher low. Now, this whole move started all the way back in March or January of 2025. We created an all-time high, regressed and created a lower low. Now, this was the bottom of the bearish momentum. We went on to create a lower high and a higher low, followed by a parabolic breakout. Now, after that previous all-time high came in, we got a major regression in the market, primarily led by Bitcoin. But what are we on the precipice of? If XRP is able to get a weekly closure here above 205, we just created a higher low on the price chart, and we can anticipate some big bullish momentum coming into this market. And we have the ETFs as the necessary catalyst to bring that new liquidity in. If you guys are excited about the ETFs launching this week, smash that like button and let us know underneath the video. Are you excited about the fact that the largest companies on the planet are now going to be pitching XRP to their clients? One other price target I want our listeners to keep an eye on is this $2.14 range. If we're able to get above that range and see some daily closures, that would officially reverse the bearish momentum that we witnessed since the beginning of October with that historic liquidity event that started with the decoupling of a single stable coin on a single exchange. But Johnny, what are some of your thoughts?
Yeah, because I'm so excited when I look at that curve and when I look at that chart and I think about where do I want to make a logical entry points as I kind of buy when I DC the way down. I mean, it's a chart looks, you could not ask for like a more optimal point where you'd say, okay, this is a place where I would possibly place a bet, because I'm always the look to buy where I see support levels. And what I loved about the chart you showed is, you talked about the Doji coin, but the reality, the Doji bar, but when you really look at it, what I saw there was a higher low, and higher lows. Look at the bottom, look at the prior low, and look at that, right? That's what we want to see. Higher lows and higher highs. And that's where it feels like we're trending towards. So I'm excited about it. It feels for me, I ain't gonna lie, this was definitely an entry point. I purchased this weekend, Abs, and we'll probably continue to buy if we keep hanging in this range.
Well, Johnny, I'm really excited because another thing that sticks out to me about right now is that retail investors are more fearful than ever, while institutions are adopting these assets at a faster pace than we've ever seen before. And although we already have the ETFs live inside the United States, it's the biggest products that are going to be hitting the American market over these next couple of weeks. Franklin Templeton, Grayscale, we have Bitwise that is live. We're also going to have a bunch of other heavyweights which have already filed. That includes Canary Capital, 21 shares, Wisdom Tree, Pro Shares, Coin Shares, Hashdex, Tucrium, and nearly 4 other big companies that have filed for an XRP ETF. So this new demand will have an impact given due time. And just as we're seeing all this new demand enter the market, Johnny, retail investors are ready to tap out. The fear and greed index is lower than it was during the FTX collapse with Sam Bankman-Fried. And during that time, the price of Bitcoin was $20,000. Now we're looking at the extreme fear index. Bitcoin trading above $91,000 at the time of that recording. And as we record this episode, we're trading at about 88,000. What's more important here, if that low was formed at $80,000, which was that wick that we saw just 48 hours ago, that would be a 36% pullback from the previous all-time high. And this is where I continue to give credit to Raoul Pal for letting everybody know there will be a moment in the price charts during this bull market where everybody says it's over. And the markets have pulled back 35%. And everyone on Twitter will tell you that it's over, but it won't be over. There'll be a final leg that steps in. These altcoins will head into euphoria. And the final piece of evidence that leads me to believe we are yet to see the euphoric moment for altcoins is because none of these projects besides XRP have even broken their 2021 all-time highs. If you look at what happened with Ethereum, we barely even got there in this calendar year. Solana didn't break it. Cardano didn't come close. HBAR didn't come close. You go through all these projects. Chainlink didn't come close. AVAX didn't come close. The only one that really came close was Zcash, which went parabolic this month, and XRP, which was suppressed during the 2021 cycle. So the reality is it probably wouldn't have broken it. It would have only gotten back to those initial levels if it hadn't been suppressed during that time. So all of this is really outplaying before our very eyes, guys. If you're excited about the future, smash that like button. Let us know your thoughts underneath the video. What is your 2025 price projection for XRP? Because my anticipation is that with everybody fearful and everybody ready to get out of this market, Johnny, many of these projects may start moving the other direction now that leverage traders are too fearful to even enter these assets.
Yeah, I certainly think there's no doubt about it. It's funny. If you bring up the fear and greed index, as I'm talking here, I do want to point something out. As I'm looking at this, right, one of the reasons why I had purchased is because you got like the perfect storm, right? You got prices hitting the fib levels that are very strategic fib levels, 0.618s and so on and so forth. But you also have the fear and greed index way, way over into this favor. When I look at that thing, what I would tell people to do, if you can bring it up one more time, I want people to think about it like this, Abs. When you see right there, fear and greed that low, I'm going to rewrite this, right? And it should say right here, institutions are buying. And then and retailers are selling. And then when it swings to the green side, the way to look at that meter is institutions are selling and retailers are buying. So guys, when you see this thing like that, extreme fear right there, you know what that really means? Change the word to institutions are buying. And then ask yourself, what would you do?
Absolutely, guys. And Johnny Krypto, one other thing I want our listeners to be aware of is that even JP Morgan, which we covered in a video earlier this week, is not rooting for Ripple and XRP to be successful. Even they are anticipating $14 billion worth of inflows in the first calendar year for the spot XRP and Solana ETFs combined. Now, when you look at what they're predicting for XRP, they are predicting $8 billion in demand coming into this project. When you look at the current inflows, we're on pace to outdo that. And I think with some of these other companies stepping into the market, I find myself leaning more towards what Canary Capital's CEO has said, 3 to 5 billion in the first 4 to 6 weeks. And therefore, after, Sal Gilberti has predicted $20 billion worth of inflows during 2026. Chat, I'd love to hear some of your thoughts underneath the video. But Johnny, what are your thoughts on a contrarian to the market like JP Morgan admitting there's $14 billion worth of demand right now?
You know, Abs, the way that I kind of think about it is, at the end of the day, JP Morgan, you know, you might want to call them the bad guys. You know, they have no choice but to kind of recognize that some of this demand is coming. And so they're going to put, and of course, they've got the crew, they got the staff. So they're going to go out there and put their best predictions out there. And, you know, maybe they're on the high side for whatever reason they chose to do it. But the reality is, it's really a recognition of something that had to probably burn their ass, that they didn't want to go and say XRP, which we know they don't like XRP. Not that they don't like it, but we know they feel threatened by Ripple, the company. We've plenty of evidence of that. And so because of that, it's got to burn their ass to be like, wow, these guys are really going to be doing good, which makes me wonder in the long run, Abs, when you're a small player and you're going up against a big player like JP Morgan, it's pretty easy for JP Morgan to squash you. But when you got a couple $1 billion in the bank and you're buying a company's acquisitions worth $1 billion, you almost have to come to the point and recognize, like, you know what? These guys are here to stay. You recognize, right? You come to this thing of like, okay, they aren't going away. We're not going to be able to squash them. We tried to get them pushed up by the SEC. We couldn't. They're here to stay. And so what I ask myself, Abs, is when will JP Morgan capitulate and say, you know what? Here, Ripple, let's figure out how to work together. Because, dude, if that happens, let me tell you, that's when I think you see massive instant floodgate adoption. It could happen much faster than with the way Ripple's doing it now, which they're going out and they're buying their own way into it versus having third-party partners come in and just take the technology. So I'd love to see that happen. And it wouldn't surprise me if somewhere down the road we hear that when JP Morgan realizes these guys aren't going away.
Well, as somebody who's been in this market for 7 years, starting in January, Johnny, I can tell you I've never seen fear like this from retail investors. That includes the COVID crisis. That includes the FTX collapse. People are burdened by the lack of price action in this market. And a lot of people thought this was going to be the year of fireworks. So now that retail investors are tapped out, they feel as if we're in a bear market. It is Wall Street that is beginning to step in, and that's not our opinion. That is the evidence in this article right here, guys. If you enjoy this content, smash that like button and listen to this. With Franklin Templeton and Grayscale set to launch XRP ETFs on the New York Stock Exchange this Monday, this milestone goes beyond a new investment product. It marks a major step towards mainstream crypto adoption. The ETFs could boost XRP liquidity, influence market dynamics, and pave the way for future digital asset offerings in regulated finance. So what are they saying here, guys? The floodgates have opened. Wall Street is through the gates. And from this point forward, they will define which assets are most successful in the crypto market. If you agree with this content, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you all in the next one.